It's waxing lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Dutch. I'm your host, Mains, and I have a reporter with me from Yahoo Sports doing the pod with me this week. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
I'm very, very well, sir. Still put my pants on one leg at a time. Don't feel the need to treat me any differently. Just don't start.
As I said on the Twitter, like for someone who can barely put his pants on one leg at a time, struggles with basic life things, to think that Yahoo Sports, one of the biggest sports entities, especially related to the NFL, wanted little old you to write an article for them is pretty special. What did you write, Neil, for those who haven't read it yet?
I wrote an article on 3 candidates to be this year's Adam Thielen, i.e. a late round wide receiver who could have serious fantasy success. So I won't prejudice it. So I'll retweet it several more times, don't worry, from my account. But I say if you go to Yahoo Sports, look up this year's Adam Thielen, you'll find it there.
Wow. Well, there we go. How the mighty get mightier. Fantastic stuff from Dutton, and long may it continue. This week, back into reality of trying to calm Neil down. We're going to talk AFC West, which I'm sure will calm him down until we get to the Raiders, when I'm sure we may get blood pressure rising a little bit. Normal service with two. We've only got 2 left. We're right in the West now. AFC this week, NFC next week. Normal fare. We're going to talk about the change. One big question for each team: a fantasy breakout and a fantasy broke. Then we're going to look at their schedules, look at their win total, and see whether they are champs or whether they are chumps. So let's get this party started, Neil. With in classic Homer Simpson voice, the Denver Broncos change ins. Case Keenum, Marquette King, and their draft pick was Bradley Chubb, defensive end from NC State. Chubb, indeed. Out CJ Anderson, Brock Osweiler, the second time. Virgil Green, and everyone's favourite chain snapper, Aqib Talib. Big question, Neil, is can Case Keenum keep up his 2017 form and make the Broncos playoff contenders?
Well, last year the Broncos on defense were as solid as they have been, over recent years. They weren't as dominant, but they were still solid. They were let down though by the fact that their offense just couldn't stop turning the ball over. When you have a quarterback trio of Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, and Mr. Brock Osweiler, you're not going to do a good job of keeping hold of the ball, it would seem. Keenum obviously was very, very good for Minnesota, but he had a very strong supporting cast. I worry that the offense he has now, it has some nice pieces, but I don't think there's any I don't think the players are at the height of their game the way the likes of Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen were, and Kyle Rudolph, for example. The defense is still good, but I think it's still going to have to carry it. This team, as you say, they've made an awful lot of changes. They brought in, especially in the draft, they've reinforced the wide receiver core, their tight end room, they've changed running backs. So I think they'll certainly be better, I would think, and they will benefit, I think, from playing a soft-ish schedule, thanks to how poor they were last year. But I still think they've got ways to go, and I worry that Keenum is the type of player who you see his strengths when he's surrounded by strong talent. When he isn't, you may see his weaknesses.
I think it's a good question, Neil, and I should hope so, because I thought of it. And it is a question of, what do you think of Case Keenum and the offense around him? Obviously, last year, the defense could have been amazing, but the offense was terrible, and he turned the ball over a lot and couldn't decide what quarterback to have. They've now got a quarterback, but in a similar situation to a few teams, one of which I support, their quarterbacks had coming off a major outlier season where he hasn't had that kind of production before. He also is going to a team where in the past they had weapons, but now those weapons are getting older, or as you've mentioned, are rookies, and he doesn't have the Diggs, Thielen, Rudolph with him. I struggle with the Denver Broncos at the moment because I just look and think they're not good, and I think that they think they are, which is really a concern quite a lot of the time, that you don't want to be in a situation where you don't know what you are. If you know, they think they're a dominant defense who can score 25, 28 points a game. I'm not sure they are that. And I think their defense is good, not great. They need Von Miller and Bradley Chubb to be amazing for that situation to occur. And I'm not 100% sure they can score enough points to do what John Elway believes. Because I think he thinks this team is like a Super Bowl contender. And I don't think they're close to making the playoffs.
No. They do benefit, as I say, from a slightly soft schedule. And one of the best in the business when it comes to writing about strength of schedule is Warren Sharp, Sharp Football. Apparently, he says that Denver will face the 7th softest pass defense schedule this year. So that means as long as Keenum is competent and he's kept upright and he has time to make the throws to the playmakers that Denver will lean on, they should be better than last season where they averaged, I think they were 28th in yards per play. This is the Denver Broncos, as we say, but 28th in yards per play, that's piss poor.
It's awful. Neil, we're not convinced by the offense, but if we were, who would be the fancy breakout star?
Well, I don't think he's not a breakout because we've known about him for years, so don't call it a comeback. But currently, Emmanuel Sanders is being drafted as the wide receiver 33 in the middle of the 7th round. Now, there's one thing that Case Keenum liked to do last year. It was target the slot. Now, they don't really have a slot receiver of consequence, but Emmanuel Sanders has been playing in the slot more during the pre-season so far. So, while I don't think Sanders is going to be an absolute superstar, because, as you say, I think he's getting a bit old. He's getting up there in years. It's starting to take his toll. For where he is going, I think he offers good value if he can link up well with Keenum and he plays predominantly out of the slot. So for someone you can get in the 7th round, I think he could have weeks where he's a top 24 wide receiver. So I like his price.
Who's fantasy broke, Neil?
See, I don't know why you wouldn't take Emmanuel Sanders till the 7th round, but still take Demaryius Thomas in the 4th. And he's the wide receiver 19. Basically all his key stats have gone down in all the last 3 years. So his receptions, his yards, his touchdowns, his fantasy points, they're gradually going down. Last year it was a 6-year low in catch rate, yards per catch. He didn't hit 1,000 yards for the first time since 2011 when he was being quarterbacked by Tim Tebow. So I think of the weapons they've brought in, they are most likely to be Thomas's replacement more than Sanders, if Sanders can adapt to the slot role. I think the fact as well that the Broncos can save $14 million against the cap by releasing Thomas next season, I think they'll either get as much out of him as they can or realise he's not the future and start looking elsewhere. So I really, really hate his price at the moment, especially in comparison to Emmanuel Sanders.
So, okay, win total for them, Neil, is 7.5. They have home games against the Seahawks, the Rams, the Texans, the Steelers and the Browns. Road games against the Ravens, the Jets, the Cards. Then they have the Bengals and the 49ers back-to-back. For you, Neil, are they champs or chumps?
If they're champs by going over that win spread, yes. But I wouldn't be planning too many parades or, any banner ceremonies, because I just think this is an ordinary team. As long as their offense can meet their defense halfway, I think they're in with a puncher's chance in most games they'll play. I can't see them losing. What was it last season they lost? I think there was 10 games where they had conceded more than 20 points, and 5 they conceded more than 30. That's not Denver Broncos football, especially not in the Von Miller era. But do I see them dominating? Do I see them as the best team in this division? No, I really don't. So I will take the over, but it's a very, very slight over. I think 8-8 is probably this team's ceiling.
I'm going to take the under. I think the Chumps. I think they're the third best team in this league at best, and will probably lose home and away to at least one of Chiefs or Chargers. I don't see them winning on the road in Baltimore. I don't see them winning on the road in Cincinnati. I don't see them winning on the road to the 49ers. They won't beat the Steelers. They won't beat the Rams. It's a soft schedule, but not that soft. So I'm gonna take the chump line on this one, Neil, and expect them to be somewhere like 6-10.
But the problem is that it won't address the real issue, that their GM is crap.
Yeah, well, winning Super Bowls kind of masks those issues for a number of years, so he's still in this 5-year window of being okay.
But this is the problem, that if they go 6-10, 7-9, or even 8-8, they'll be too high in the draft again to get a quarterback. And so then, what do you do? Do you trade up again? Well, it didn't work out well the last time.
This becomes the issue, doesn't it, of being the middle. You don't need to. You don't want to be it. Next on the docket, Neil, the Kansas City Chiefs. Changes, ins, Sammy Watkins, Damian Williams, and this year's first round pick, which was actually last year's first round pick, which is Patrick Mahomes. Out, you may have heard, Alex Smith. Also
I
Albert.
mentioned it once or twice.
Albert Wilson and Benny Logan. Big question is, given how well the Chiefs were, how good the Chiefs were on offense last year, outlier season, we know. Do you expect them to regress under Mahomes?
I think they will. They won't be as explosive because obviously, it's very hard to be as efficient as they were 2 years running. I think they will turn the ball over more than they did. As we know, Alex Smith, while deciding to turn, into the second coming of the mad bomber Darryl LaMonica and heaving it downfield, he's also, his first instinct is still to protect the ball, so he's not going to throw interceptions. Whereas Mahomes is a little bit more of a risk taker. So while he may think, I can make every throw, I can fit it in this gap, you can't fit every gap, son. But I think the offense can be just as prolific. They still have Travis Kelce, who's looking to become the first tight end to go back to back to back as the tight end one since the dawn of the 21st century. They've got Tyreek Hill, who is a playmaker. He's a big play machine. They've added Sammy Watkins. Kareem Hunt led the NFL in rushing last year. They have today released Charkandrick West, so it'll be Hunt and Spencer Ware, one would assume. I don't think there's any problem. I don't think there's anything really to worry about for the Chiefs on offense. Defensively, I'm petrified, as it means that their offense is going to get plenty of chances to put up numbers because their defense won't be able to stop anyone.
So that slot receiver they've got isn't gonna stop them now.
Despite having the most efficient slot defender in the NFL, that they got from a team who traded a second round pick for a 34-year-old quarterback coming off a major outlier season, I think he will help, but they're not a great pass rusher. They lost Marcus Peters. I don't think that they're terribly good on defense. So they're easily probably, I think, the third best defense in their own division.
They're not great on defense, but they have Big Red sorting out the offense. And let's be brutally honest, this is season 19, or this would be season 20 for Big Red. And there hasn't been many crap offensive seasons during that period of time. There's not many coaches who you would trust to make this change from Smith to Mahomes, but Reid is probably one of them. You almost think that the change in offensive approach last year was to make sure that everybody, including Mahomes, understood that deep ball threat was going to be part of the arsenal when Mahomes is there. Given the fact that in preseason this season, I think he threw a ball that was 65 yards in the air.
It was 60. It was a 69-yard touchdown pass, 60 yards 60, through the air.
Which is a long way for those who are unaware. The defense isn't great, but the offense, I think, will be good. Will it be as good as it was under Smith? Well, probably not, only given what Neil says around interceptions and turnovers. I expect there to be more because, as you said, Alex Smith, who somehow it's held against him that he doesn't like giving the ball to the other team. Weird that. But Mahomes probably will force it more. He is, only coming into his second year. It'll only be his second start, first game of the season. So, yeah, it's something that regress is probably a big word. They probably won't be as good, but I don't think they'll be terrible.
No, I agree. And it's as you say, if Andy Reid can do one thing, it's coach offense.
It's like if someone could help Andy Reid with telling the time and understanding the challenge concept, then he'd have even more wins, which is a pretty scary thought. Who's the fancy breakout star on the Chiefs, Neil?
The fancy breakout star, again, this is a question of value given his current ADP, is Sammy Watkins. I've not been a huge Watkins fan. I know he can be quite good. He was slightly hamstrung last year by literally landing on the Rams with, I think, 20 seconds to go till the season started. But he's going to come into a situation now where he's, don't get me wrong, he can move as well. He's quite quick. So he's going to help. He's going to get down the field for Patrick Mahomes. He did score 8 touchdowns last season. He does have 25 touchdowns in his time in the NFL, which is certainly it's a decent number. But one thing that the Rams did use him quite cleverly was they used him in the red zone. So he did, I think had 4 red zone touchdowns last season. That is important when one considers the player I'm going to speak of next and how he is not used. Obviously, they have Travis Kelce and they're going to use in the red zone. Why wouldn't you? They're also going to run the ball, try and run the ball in the red zone. But Sammy Watkins, given his height, given his speed, I think he's not going to be a wide receiver 1, but currently he's being drafted wide receiver 32, again in the middle of the 7th round. So I think he's not a bad player. He could have some weeks, he could be touchdown dependent, but he could have some weeks where he put up wide receiver 3 flex numbers.
Who's fancy broke, Neil?
Again, it's not broke, but I'm not buying Tyreek Hill at his current price. He's going as the wide receiver 14. Now, Tyreek Hill scored 7 receiving touchdowns last season. All 7 were from 30 yards out or longer. Now, I know we spoke about 60 yards through the air from Patrick Mahomes. You're not scoring 7 touchdowns from 30 yards out again. I'm sorry, not happening. He had less than 20% of the team market share. So if you take his touchdowns away, he's going to put up some nice numbers, but he's not going to get the volume enough to be dominant without the big splash plays. Plus, he had 4 red zone targets all season. They don't look to him in the red zone. So I think at the price he is going, you're taking him at his absolute ceiling, and I don't see him hitting it.
Win total, it for me is an unbelievable 7.5. Which is the same as the Denver Broncos. They have home games against the 49ers, the Jags, the Bengals, the Cardinals, and the Ravens. They have road games against the Steelers, the Pats, the Browns, the Rams, and the Seahawks. 7.5, Neil, champs or chumps?
I'm going to take the over because I have more faith that their offense can keep them in games that their defense won't be able to shut out. So while I don't think they're going to be dominant, I think this is definitely a team that's going to be pushing for the postseason again. I can definitely see 8 to 10 wins.
1999, 2005, and 2012.
Losing seasons for Andy Reid.
They are the seasons where he's below 7.5 victories. In 19 seasons, that's 16-3. So, if you want to bet the under, I wish you all the luck in the world, and you probably got some sound logic. I'm going to stick with the over, though. I think they probably win the division, mainly due to the fact that the other team that we're going to discuss next struggles to keep all their players on the field. So the Chiefs will win by default. So I'm going to say champs. I'm going to say 10-6. Good team. And yeah, I've now he's in Kansas City. I can show my full respect for Andy Reid. Next team, Neil, the Los Angeles Chargers. I've even got an alphabetical order and I've named them correctly. Go me. The change-ins: Virgil Green, Mike Pouncey, Derwin James is their draft pick. He was a safety from FSU. That's Florida State for everyone. Out, Matt Lawson, and all the injuries, which at the moment stand at Jalen Watkins, Hunter Henry, and Jason Verrett. As in season ending, there's also a long list of people who are banged up, like Casey Hayward. Big question is it only the injury bug that could derail the Charger challenge this year?
You would think so. I mean, they did go 3-5 in one-score games last year, so maybe if they flip that, and they can be just... Basically, they took a while to get into the season to discover on offense who they were and what they were. It was when they realised, Hunter Henry, he quite good, we should use him more instead of the rotting carcass of Antonio Gates. Obviously, they haven't got Hunter Henry, so they're going to have to go to a wide receiver set. That's fine. They've got the weapons to do it. They've got a productive running back, not particularly efficient one. They've got some nice pieces around Melvin Gordon that they can rotate in, like Justin Jackson or Austin Eckler. They've still got Phil Rivers. If, and it is a huge if, they don't suffer many more injuries, I think this is the best team in the division. I think it's the division champions, but history is not on their side, as they have not topped 9 wins for 9 seasons.
That's an incredible. Sorry, that's a staggering stat. There was like complete silence because you said it. I don't know. I fear for the Chargers because I assume that their new stadium and their old stadium is built on an Indian burial ground. Lots of injuries. I want them to be good. I've wanted them to be good a lot, but it hasn't worked out, so I'm not sure they will be.
I mean, defensively, they've got a very good defensive coach, obviously, Gus Bradley. They've still got Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. They've still got decent corners, assuming Casey Hayward is fit. So, seriously, it's the only thing that can stop them is the Los Angeles Chargers.
That's exactly right. If they weren't the Los Angeles Chargers, I'm not saying if they were San Diego, we're saying if they weren't the Chargers, that subsection of it, then we would probably be thinking they were a Super Bowl contender. Because of the Chargers, I'm not convinced they win the division.
I see what you mean. I have faith. I love Phil Rivers. I
think we all love Phil Rivers, Neil, but you've just told me that he hasn't topped 9 wins in 9 seasons.
Yeah.
Like we give, for example, we give Eli Manning an absolute boatload of grief. We give Ben Roethlisberger more grief for his off the field than his on the field. We all love Phil Rivers, but if Phil Rivers is who Phil Rivers says he is, they should win 11 games every year, not get over 9. Do you know what I mean? I like Phil Rivers too. Do you know? And that man can make kids like a professional. You can get 9 kids over the line, but he can't get 9 wins over the line. Do you know what I mean?
A man's so fertile he could inseminate coal. Obviously, if they could finally sort out a kicker, that would help. So I think, just go the whole hog. Stop relying on kickers and just annihilate teams.
Yeah, exactly right.
To do it.
Exactly, I think that's the thing. Yeah, I know it's a 3 parts of a team, and special teams is one of them. But stop having to rely on them so much. Who's fancy breakout star on the Chargers, Neil?
Fancy breakout star broke out in 2016, but was quiet last year because of Keenan Allen. That's Tyrell Williams. Now, he's going wide receiver 78. He was wide receiver 18 in 2016, but he fell to wide receiver 43 last year. He was a restricted free agent this offseason, and the Chargers chose to tend to him at the second round level, meaning they would keep him around. They're going to have to play more 3 wide receiver sets because they haven't got Hunter Henry, and they've got no real receiving tight end of consequence. Now, a lot of people are thinking, and I did say this at the time, that this could mean that Mike Williams gets used almost more as a pseudo tight end.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's going to be the pseudo tight end, that means they need another wide receiver, and that's going to be Tyrell Williams. He led the league, I believe, in yards after the catch last season. And Rivers logged a 106.7 passer rating when targeting him. He's good in the red zone. He didn't get his opportunities last year because they had Antonio Gates, Hunter Henry, and Keenan Allen. I say, well, 2 of them have gone. So he showed actually in the preseason game. I watched a bit of it. I watched while the starters were in. He made an absolute circus catch against the Seahawks first string when Rivers was scrambling. It looked as if he was throwing it away, Rivers, but Tyrell went up and got it. He is the one player who, to quote friend Matt Kelly, I would probably qualify for truther status with because I refuse to give him up. So I think he's not going to be a superstar. He's not going to be a wide receiver 1. He has shown he can be a focal point of the offense, but he needs a Keenan Allen injury to be a stud. And we all hope Keenan Allen doesn't get injured.
Absolutely, Neil. Who is fantasy broke?
The pseudo tight end.
Is that because he's going to be a pseudo tight end, or is it because it's going to be his rookie season, really, because he was injured all of last year and it's going to take him a while?
I think he's not very good.
Okay.
I wrote, and I got to talk about this a lot, I wrote early this off-season about wide receivers taken in the first 3 rounds who don't exceed 200 yards as rookies. Very, very few of them ever amount to anything in the NFL.
Does it count if you don't play? Like,
yeah, because
he didn't play.
Kevin White, Rashard Perryman, Philip Dorsett. There's people in there who missed rookie seasons, but
true.
Even when they come back, into it, they still look garbage. I just think they'll say of the 2 Williams, I don't know why they drafted Mike Williams when they already had Tyrell. I think Tyrell Williams is a better player. I think he's going to see more targets. And if someone's main reason for drafting someone is, well, he could score touchdowns in the red zone, you're basically hoping he scores a touchdown every week, which isn't going to happen, as generally it doesn't happen for very many wide receivers. So I don't think he's going to get the volume, and I certainly don't understand why he's going 5 rounds ahead of Tyrell Williams. So I'll take Tyrell later, you take Mike, you get your gun, I'll get mine, we'll saddle up and meet at Texas.
Nice. Win total, Neil, 9.5. So Vegas think they're the best team in this division. Spoiler alert, Oakland is below 9.5. Home games against the 49ers, the Titans, the Cardinals, the Bengals, and the Ravens. Road games against the Bills, the Rams, which are back-to-back, the Browns, the Seahawks, and the Steelers. Now, what we like to talk weather here. So interestingly, all of those road games are complete by week 13. So not deep into December, although they do play Seattle Steelers in November. But even so, it's not deep in December. So win totals 9.5. Champs or chumps, Neil?
Champs. This could be one of the teams that the Patriots will be beating in the AFC Championship game when they get to the Super Bowl.
I would love not the second part. I would love the Chargers to be good. I think, not that they deserve to be good. They've got talent that means they should be good. I think it would be nice for them to be good. I like Phillip Rivers. I hope they're good. I fear that they're not going to break 9 wins and the Chiefs are going to win the division just because of the Chargers and they'll do Chargery things. And we'll be talking in 5 weeks and so the Chargers are 1-3. How's that happened? Oh well, they shanked a kick from the goal line and then someone scored on a Hail Mary in the last second to beat them.
Rivers had a 5 interception game.
Yeah, exactly right. It's just I'd like to believe in them, but they've let me down so many times in the past that I'm staying away this time.
You're all out of love.
I am. Final team in the division, Neil. The soon-to-be Las Vegas, but right now, Oakland Raiders. The change. I don't know if you know. They signed a head coach. $100 million over 10 years. They're guaranteed money, by the way. Ins. Reggie Nelson, EJ Manuel, and Dwayne Harris. Yeah, you kind of get my point right. Outs, Seabass, Michael Crabtree, and Market King. So brand new kicker and punter for the Raiders. The big question really is based on what we've known so far this year. Do you think John Gruden knows it's 2018?
No, not got a clue. for someone who has spent the best part of the last decade studying film and doing nothing but studying film, what he has shown he has learned from this 10-year sabbatical is astonishing, considering how he thinks the league should be moving. Now, I don't know whether some of the things he says, he's saying it for shtick, or he genuinely believes it. But as Josh Norris says, teams are honest twice. The draft and free agency. Well, we've seen what they brought in free agency, so we know what they're trying to do. They're trying to create a team that basically is getting together for one last mission. Yeah, I've seen this film. It was called The Dirty Dozen. 2 of them survived at the end of it. Or if we go to another one, The Wild Geese, 2 of them survived at the end of it. So basically the only survivors from this at the end of the season will be Gruden and Carr. The way it's going, I just don't understand some of the moves they've made. I don't understand the way they're going. I don't understand the players they've brought in. I don't understand some of the crap that comes out of John Gruden's head. I think this was all the hallmarks of a massive publicity stunt by the Raiders.
Dutton, we spoke to a couple of former head coaches. One of them loved to cry, Mr. Dick Vermeil, and he had a massive gap between his time with the Philadelphia Eagles and taking over the then St. Louis Rams. And questions were asked about whether he would still be the coach he was beforehand and in step with the league as it had moved on since then. Questions are being raised similarly about John Gruden, and the real issue now is that at the moment I don't think he's answering them in the way that Mark Davis and Raiders fans would like. Now, we're absolutely fine to be proven wrong, but to almost be like laughing in the face of RPOs and college style systems when they are proven to be worked and are being used by the teams that are winning games is a bit naive. Some of the personnel decisions are not great, and by not great I mean awful. Obviously, proof in the pudding's in the tasting, so we'll soon see. But I'd be concerned if I was a Raiders fan. It should also be noted that although he did win a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, he was pretty garbage for the last 4 or 5 years he was there. It wasn't like he left on a Super Bowl high. He left struggling to get, considering he was some kind of QB guru, to get anything out of any quarterback he'd ever had in Tampa Bay. So you could think, oh, Gruden and Carr, that could work well. Well, look at the quarterbacks he had, and he didn't get anything out of them. Now, Carr is more talented than they were, but that wouldn't fill me with confidence either. There should be 2 people, and you said in your Dirty Dozen reference, there's 2 people who should be surviving this, whatever happens, and that's Gruden and Carr. My concern is, are Gruden and Carr compatible?
I think it doesn't really help as well when you have one of the best defensive players in the NFL. He'd like a contract that he deserves, and you haven't spoke to him for 6 months.
I think we should take a couple of minutes to talk about that. He's your best player. And as you quite rightly pointed out, you've decided not to speak to him because he thinks he should be paid more, which, by the way, he probably should be.
Yeah.
Now, there are multiple ways to pay people better. Look at Atlanta with Julio Jones, money management, whatever. You know, basically what you're saying right now is you're either going to rent him or trade him. They're the only 2 things now that, in my opinion, that's going to happen. For me, there's no way he signs a long-term deal with Oakland. So you're either going to rent him for a year or you're going to trade him. And you think you're going to get a first-round pick. Fine, understandable, understand the logic. But
You won't.
A, you won't. And B, you think you only want a first-round pick that's a high first-round pick. Well, why is a rubbish team signing Khalil Mack? Doesn't make any sense. Like if, say, a top, say not the Chargers as an example, the Chiefs as an example, because we're talking AFC West. They could really use him, but you don't want the 28th pick in the draft. So what's your end game? Why are you trying to make yourself less talented?
I just don't understand it. See, with Khalil Mack, they're a garbage defense. Take Khalil Mack out of it, they are no defense. I just, and I just don't understand. Is this now the way the league is going, that we don't pay the most dominant defensive players on our team? With the Eagles, the last ones to do it with Fletcher Cox, does it just not happen anymore?
I don't know, Neil. I don't know.
Is our Defensive Player of the Year candidates now deemed expendable by the NFL? In the Western divisions, I should point out.
In the Western divisions, maybe they are, Neil. Maybe they are. Who's fancy breakout on the Raiders?
Well, historically, have not strongly featured the tight end. If you go back to his previous time with the Raiders and with the Buccaneers. But when you consider at the moment they've got Amari Cooper, the rotting corpse of Jordy Nelson, Martavis, I haven't lived up to my name for 4 years, Bryant, and that's about it in the receiving game. Jared Cook could actually be a decent value, especially given his current ADP, which he doesn't have one in redraft leagues. He is going undrafted in 12-team PPR leagues. So I think, especially at the start of the season, I think they have a nice start against tight end friendly defenses. He's certainly a streaming option. Maybe, slight spoiler alert before I do my week 1 streamers. Maybe Jared's name is mentioned, but it's hard to get too excited about many of these offensive players except Amari Cooper. So Cook is pretty much the best of a bad bunch.
Who's fancy broke, Neil?
Doug Martin. Don't know why they signed him. Absolutely terrible. Has been terrible for 2 years. Has had 2 good seasons in the NFL. Why they brought him in when Marshawn Lynch showed he still had something left in the tank, and they had Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington? Don't know. Waste of money. If it was up to me, he wouldn't make the final 53. But for some reason, he's still getting drafted in the 13th round. I don't. What are people expecting to get from him in the 13th round? You're going to have to tell me what you expect from him in the 13th round. Is he going to catch passes? No. Is he going to timeshare? No. Gruden doesn't do that. He feeds the one running back. So seriously, what are you getting? What are you expecting? Lynch can retire mid-season? You're wasting your draft picks.
Win total for the Oakland Raiders is 8.5. That's right. The Oakland Raiders win total is higher than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Just because they're going to play in Vegas, does that mean Vegas have to say nice things about them in their casinos?
I don't know. It's absolutely crazy. Home games: Rams, Browns, Seahawks, Colts, Steelers. Road games against the Dolphins, the 49ers, the Cards and the Ravens back-to-back, and the Bengals. Champs or chumps, Neil?
Chumps. Utter crap. I don't. It's going to end in tears.
Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, we discuss a lot that Vegas have got really big hotels and are really rich, but I don't see how this team's an 8.5 win team. John Gruden's got to do a lot of convincing for me, and I don't think he's got anywhere remotely near the talent that he needs. The 2016 season seems like a very long time ago for this franchise, because this franchise was on the up and on the move, and now I see them back at 5-11.
Well, there again, they have reached 8 wins once in the last 6 years. So again, that 2016 season is starting to look like the blip.
Yeah, exactly right. That's the outlier. They are consistently rubbish, and they've had one outlier.
And are paying top dollar for a quarterback who is getting no help and isn't really good enough to lift all boats around him.
It doesn't look that way, Neil. It doesn't look that way. So, AFC West. Neil goes Chargers, I go Chiefs, only because I want to go Chargers, but I can't, given the case of whatever they've done. Neil's higher on the Broncos than I am, but we both are convinced that the Oakland Raiders are bottom feeders.
Yeah, as I said last week, they're only finishing 4th because there aren't 5 teams in this division.
Correct. Neil, that's it on the preview of the AFC West. Is there anything you want to plug after you've already plugged your Yahoo Sports stuff?
Well, as I say, I'll plug the Yahoo again. Go there, read that, learn about players, late round players who could have serious fantasy value. For Number Fire, I was part of a team article about sleeper tight ends. As I say, we still haven't spoken about him, so read about that before we do next week. I am contributing to another 2 Number Fire group articles. One is about late round running backs, so I will not be writing about Doug Martin. And another one about late round rookies to keep an eye on. I also have 2 articles out for Rotoviz. One is why Jarvis Landry could lead the NFL in targets in 2018 and why Ezekiel Elliott will lead the league in carries. So, busy.
Fantastic, Neil, fantastic. Previews end next week, NFC West. We're going to talk how good are the Rams? Is Garoppolo, the greatest human being ever created? And why do people still think that the Seattle Seahawks are anything other than one of the worst 3 teams in the league?
All this and more.
And before then, these top guys are out.